in the future, it will still be the 80s.
I'm tempted to call Paul Verhoeven the king of satire, but I think everyone in the world has already done that about 20 years ago. The reason I never saw this movie was the same reason I didn't get around to seeing Starship Troopers at first. It just didn't look interesting to me. Except Starship Troopers came out when I was 16, so I was easily able to see it when I was 17. Robocop came out when I was 6, and so there wasn't much chance of me seeing this in the theater at the time. Obviously, this was on all the time when I got older, but by the time that happened, I just didn't care anymore. I felt like the train that this was on kind of passed me by already. But having had the opportunity to sit down and watch this all the way through, I have to say I cared just a little more than I thought I was going to. Just as with Starship Troopers, Verhoeven teams up with screenwriter Edward Neumeier to create something that we probably shouldn't be laughing at, but we will laugh at often. But where Starship Troopers dealt with the fascism of war, this satire deals with just about everything. Corporate greed, the concept of identity, you name it. It's the near future, and civilization is on the brink of dystopia, and out of desperation, the mayor signs a deal with a corporation that pretty much lets them take control of everything, from city planning to the entire police force. Okay, I'm gonna give it points for originality just for that, because usually in stories like these, it's always the government that takes control and ruins people's lives. Never heard of a story where a corporation is in this position, so high points for originality. This corporation is known as Omni Consumer Products, or OCP. They're allowed to run everything, and thus run everything into the ground. Because corporations do not care about you. They care about one thing, and only one thing. Money. That means that if it's in their financial best interest to sell you something that is faulty, unreliable, or even dangerous, they will push for that option. They're not in business for you. They are in business for themselves. So their first attempt at creating a better police force naturally means replacing actual human beings with an actual need for a paycheck with a giant soulless robot.
Please put down your weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply. You now have 15 seconds to comply. You are in direct violation of Penal Code 113, Section 9. I am now authorized to use physical force.
And that was the first laugh of the film where I asked myself, should I really be laughing at this? That guy was so fucked. Realizing that there are too many chances for a fully automated robot to have a glitch, they later tried to incorporate cybernetic implants on a more human subject. So the corporation begins deliberately assigning inexperienced police officers to dangerous parts of the city in the hopes that they will be killed in the line of duty so that they can bring them back to life as a cyber zombie. Hey, it's just good business. One such cop, Murphy, is on his first patrol with his partner and is horribly gunned down just as the corporation wanted, and has his memory erased and his body replaced with a new robot body. Murphy is now company property, but what I found interesting about this is that the same could be said for the police force in general, and everything else for that matter. There is little difference between what OCP is doing to Murphy and what it's doing to the civilization in general. Both are being remade and deliberately put in harm's way for profit. So, Robo-Murphy begins protecting and serving with the long robotic arm of the law and a pistol that never seems to run out of ammo. But along the way, he experiences flashbacks of his former human life. He tries to dismiss them at first, but they become harder to ignore along the way. In between his cyber patrols, we have the villain, played by the always awesome Kurtwood Smith, who is having more fun in this role than any human being should be allowed. Corporate intrigue ensues, and it soon turns out that there is more going on behind the scenes than meets the eye. The plot from here on out is paper thin. Murphy takes out bad guys in a robo-like fashion, eventually gets the human feelings back, becomes confused, and tracks down all of his previous assailants one by one while trying to piece together who he is. It's kinda like The Crow, except with cyber limbs instead of an emo getup. The most important detail in all of this, however, is that Murphy is not experiencing memories at all. It's something far more ineffable than that.
I can feel them
Murphy's brain isn't what's remembering them. In a sense, his soul is what's remembering them. Now that is damned interesting. Murphy becomes gradually more human as the film goes on, even systematically shedding his cybernetic enhancements. That was somewhat intriguing, but it all gets a bit lost in the action. In fact, for as good as it all was, my caring about all this was somewhat routine. This guy had something taken away from him, so you naturally want him to either get it back, or get revenge for not being able to get it back. But a lot of this was kind of the same scenes over and over again. I did like the bit where the giant killer robot was overcome by the power of stairs, but it all kind of merges together after a while. In fact, I had a similar reaction to this as I did with the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series, where I thought the smaller moments were actually better than the bigger story he was trying to tell. The best moments in this film for me were things like the little commercials they would often play.
Red alert, red alert, red alert.
You crossed my line of death!
You haven't dismantled your MX stockpile.
Pakistan is threatening my border!
That's it, Buster. No more military aid.
Nuke 'em. Get them before they get you. Another quality home game from Butler Brothers.
I would play the shit out of that game. They also brilliantly satirize consumer mentalities by having a comedy program that obviously isn't funny and is only designed to invoke laughter from idiots who will literally laugh at anything. Just scrawl out drivel, stick a tagline at the end of every non-joke, and cash in on your paycheck.
I'd buy that for $1. Hey, can I have you both?
We've had our shots.
I'd buy that for $1.
Today we call them Will Ferrell movies, but the principle is the same. The whole thing wraps up with a big action climax and the head villain being killed by a technicality, which is fitting for a movie about someone who must adhere to programming. So, yes, all in all, I liked Robocop. I can't say I loved it or that I would desire to see it again anytime soon, but it was good. Not Verhoeven's best, but still good.